is Tuesday. And yeah, welcome to Streams of Collective Consciousness. I talk about sustainable fashion, environmentalism, and social justice. There's a lot of interesting news today that I'm going to be covering from 4 to 6 p.m. Central Time, such as how Princess Polly is becoming all of a sudden a B Corp organization. Supposedly they met all the requirements, and they're going at it. They're going at it as a B Corp, even though they're a fast fashion brand. And they've even gone on to say we are a demand fashion brand, a on-demand fashion brand, just like Shein is doing with their own brand. They're like, we're just a demand brand. We're not fast fashion, which is just BS. So we're gonna get into that. There's a lot of pushback from Princess Polly saying that they're not a fast fashion brand, and also with the B Corp thing. So we'll cover that. And then we're going to talk about how Barbie has released a diabetic type 1 Barbie doll, which is super cool. Or let me say Mattel released that Barbie doll. And then we're going to be talking about some other stuff, like how Gap has released a vintage collection, which seems to be like playing off of vintage vibes and vintage like aesthetics that are happening right now with the Gen Zers. I feel so weird being like the Gen Zers, because I'm like, wait, I think I'm Gen Z, but a lot of people are like, no, you're too old, but that's another discussion. And then there's also like money laundering happening in a luxury brand, which is very curious to look at. So we're gonna take a look at that news, and then there's a bunch of other little things that we must cover. So hopefully everyone is having a good Tuesday. To describe how this live stream works, first I do want to show you this Canva deck that I use in my live streams. And if you don't want to stay for the entire news, that's totally fine. I get it. Sad, but I get it. Okay, but if you ever want to know what's going on in the fashion world that has some elements of like social justice and environmentalism, this will be in my description, so you can look at that, and you can, like browse the news whenever. It's always a free resource. It's public for you to look at. But basically how it works, if you're new, welcome. I just reached 400 subscribers, so if you're tuning in and you're a new subscriber, welcome to the reality of who I am. I'm Ellie, and I always start my live streams at 4 p.m. Central Time. Sometimes I get on earlier or later depending on tech problems. Today, like for example, my Wi-Fi was not working. I had to like unplug something from the router and just like press the buttons and hope that works, and it does. Every single time I press that button, I'm like, okay, that worked. So yeah, today was a good day. I fixed it in time. So yeah, on track, 4 p.m. Central Time. I'm in the Chicagoland areas, and then I immediately get into sustainable fashion news. I take a break around 5 because my brain has so many tabs open, and then I talk about more like eco stuff, but most of the stuff I talk about has social issues entrenched in it, has environmentalism entrenched to it. I have an intersectional lens, so I always talk about that despite having this section later on at 5. And then I try to look at fun stuff by the end of it. So today I'll only be live streaming from 4 to 6 Central Time, but usually I'll be on from 4 to 7. I'm just trying to enjoy the summer while it lasts. I feel like it's almost gone. It's mid-July, and then within a couple of days it's going to be August. A week away and it's going to be August, and then we're going to be in fall. People are going to go back to school, and it's just going to get cold again. But I like the fall season. It's just, I like summer too. I don't want it to go, especially when it's like a cold summer, like when it's like 60, 70 degrees and it's just perfect. So yeah, I'm sad for summer to go, but that's basically the schedule. I think I'll be doing longer live streams like within the fall season, winter season, when I have less stuff to do outside, and when I'm more bored indoors. But if you ever want me to talk about anything, this is the community submission form through my website. The link is in the description. And this is basically where you can send me stuff that you want me to talk about. I am very picky. I only talk about like 15 topics max if I can get to it in one live stream. Sometimes I can cover more if I do like vague takeaways, but I like to take my time, and I can't really necessarily like stay longer than 2-3 hours just because I have a busy schedule. So point is, like, fill out the form and I'll get to it, and if I think it's worth including it within the 15 things I need to talk about within the time that I have, I'll include it. But I don't really talk about brands. I don't support fast fashion. I don't even support sustainable fashion brands. It's just I don't like supporting consumerism, even though that they're an alternative. I don't know. I'm stuttering so much. I feel like someone has a gun to me right now for no reason. But I don't really support sustainable fashion brands. I think we can just use what's in our closet, to be honest. And if we want to buy stuff, we can buy from the local thrift store or from, like, I don't know, Depop or whatever. The only thing I really buy new, to be honest, is like underwear and socks and bras, because hygiene is important, obviously. And all the like underwear brands that I've seen are so expensive. And it kind of icks me out that someone handmade my underwear. Like, someone took the time to make underwear just kind of icks me out for some reason. I don't know why. Even though fast fashion underwear is like the same thing, and maybe even has had more hands on it to make it. So fair warning, please wash your underwear if you buy them, no matter where you're buying it from, because most likely someone with real hands touched your underwear, even though it's like packaged in a nice package, does not mean it's clean. That was a tangent, but yeah, feel free to send me anything that you want me to talk about, basically. And to start off the live stream, I always start off with a personal update, just so you remember I'm a real human and not just here to provide content or entertainment with no humanity behind it. But I'm Ellie. I'm 28 years old, based in Illinois, and I just recently reached 400 subs, which is crazy. 400 subscribers on YouTube seemed so unattainable, even though it's such a small number. Like, if you tell a established YouTuber, hey, oh my god, I reached 400 subscribers, they would like mock me. They'd be like, what are you so happy about? But you know, everyone's on a journey, and I feel like it's better late than sorry. I've always wanted to do YouTube. I've always wanted to do live streaming. I started doing sustainable fashion news since like 5 years ago, and then I stopped. And now I'm back at it. So I wish I had continued 5 years ago, but you know, I'll take what I have. I'll take the progress where it comes. So 400 subscribers is just like, I don't know, a reconfirmation. A reconfirmation, is that a word? Just like it's a nice feeling to like see like some level of success from my efforts, and hopefully people are like thinking more critically about like sustainable fashion and the issues in the industry, even though I have gotten a lot of comments that are kind of weird recently, because one of my TikToks kind of went bigger than usual. I got like 5,000 views. I can show you the TikTok, but it's so funny because people were like giving me all sorts of ideas. And I was like, it was supposed to be a funny TikTok. But it got me to 400 subscribers. It got me like 2 subscribers. Here, let me show you my TikTok that I uploaded recently. It was so funny. People were like freaking out because of all the mess they saw on the TikTok. And I was like, but it happened like 6 years ago. So like, even if I could implement their solutions, it's like 6 years late. Like, I just reused content because I didn't film my videos in time this week. Wait, let me show you what I'm talking about, though. Okay, let me pull up my TikTok. My TikTok. Oh my god, I got 8,000 views? What? Where's my OBS? Here you go. Okay, so I'm gonna move me out of the way. So here's my TikTok account. And so I've been trying to upload consistently. I don't know how to make TikToks. I got 65,000 views on one TikTok. Just me staring at the camera saying, why is it gross to buy secondhand but not to wear brand new clothes that were tried on by 50 people? And that blew up, and I had no idea why. And I was like, yeah, let's pin this. And then I started uploading other stuff, not really knowing what the hell I'm doing. I kind of know, but I'm trying to figure it out. I've consistently gotten 400 views. Not that bad, but I am trapped in the 400 view range. And then this kind of got me out of the box. I just randomly uploaded it. Here, I'll show you this one that went more, I guess, gonna go viral.
Jeez. Let's find a spot. No, my God. You got it? Oh my gosh. Nice. Good job, Fabi. Thrift store. Yeah.
That's my brother, by the way, and this was 6 years ago. This was really 6 years ago. Let me explain it while you watch it again because it's so funny. But basically, all these donations were like piling up since years ago, and the only option that we had was to basically just throw it within the piles. And I think it just like astounded people by just the sheer amount of stuff that they've never seen before. Like most people don't go around like dealing with these donations nor know about the behind the scenes of the donation. So I was like, might as well upload it and show people the reality of it. And I think it just shocked or like just made people realize what the hell is going on behind the scenes. And my poor brother, he was the one that was supposed to take in the donations, and that was his job all day every day, so he was so done. And I was filming him and he was like over it. But I always film everything, so it was like kind of normal. I'm not gonna justify more, but like I needed content, you know. Took me 6 years to upload it, but better late than never, right? As I was saying. But yeah, I used to be the assistant manager for this thrift store in the Chicagoland area, and this was just a symptom of very bad management. And there wasn't enough workers, basically, and the ones that were working there wouldn't really price stuff. They would only just put like one rack out every day in the morning, and that was basically it. And if you think about one rack, this one over here, that's not enough for all the stuff they're dealing with. And all this stuff right here, even this pile right here could easily be one rack. Oop, that's his butt. But that easily could be like one rack. This could be another rack, another rack, another rack, and another rack. So they had like 4 or 5 racks basically of clothing waiting to be priced. And they would only put out one stuff. And this wouldn't like really move. It would just stay there. So like this was waiting, and only one would go out. Yet there was 3 workers here, full time, mind you, who were not doing nothing. And my brother was supposed to be the one in charge of taking in the donations, and he was really busy, you know, like taking a donation means like running back and forth, grabbing bags and boxes from outside and pulling them in. I can show you a past TikTok that shows what it looks like outside of the store. But okay, so this was outside of the door. This, on an everyday basis, was what we were dealing with. And he was the sole worker. He was the donation intaker. Can you imagine this every single day? And sometimes I would help him, even though I was supposed to be like doing other stuff as assistant manager, but I couldn't because all of this needed to be inside before the end of the day. And sometimes this would come in like at 2 or 3 or 4, and we had to leave by 6. So I felt obligated and also like had a sense of responsibility to do this and help him. Even if he hadn't been my brother, would have done the same thing to anyone else working as the donation intake coordinator, because like this is way too much for one person. So we would use these bins to put this into there and then pull it into the store and all the way into the back where we would see all those piles and piles of clothing. So that's why he was throwing stuff as fast and messy as he could, because he was just trying to like put it where it was supposed to be at, and there was other workers that were supposed to like sort through it then. But we would get this and more on the average typical day at a thrift store in suburbia Illinois. You know, so it was a lot, and you see so much random stuff. It's like it's just endless amount of things that you get. I also made another I made another TikTok. So to clarify, I have ADHD basically, and I can't really keep on topic. I was going to upload another TikTok showing my ADHD, and you could just see I could not focus. I literally could not focus. I was like grabbing stuff and letting it go, grabbing stuff and letting it go. And so this one kind of also shows what I was going through, but it's just showing this stuff, not like me struggling. But it's like POV, you have ADHD and work at a swamp thrift store. Your head is spinning, not knowing where to start. So this is literally everything that was in the back. Everything in the back that we were just trying to catch up with. And it was just horrendously overloaded. And we, as you can see, it was, it was me and my brother. All the other staffers would always be eating lunch. It would be 12 o'clock, they'd be eating lunch. It would be 2 o'clock, they were eating lunch. They would just be eating lunch. And they would be like, oh, we're busy right now. I'm like, busy doing what? Eating? So as the assistant manager for the 2 months I was there, I was dealing with lazy coworkers that had been there complacent for years and years and years and who felt like they didn't have to do anything because they had some supposed seniority. By the way, they're fired now. They lost their job because of the very reasons that I'm talking about. I didn't fire them. I just kind of I just kind of I don't know, man. I don't want to get into the details. Oh my god, someone says just going to take a quick bathroom trip, guys. Goes to the car and leaves. This is too much. That's literally me. I quit after 2 months, and 2 months is a lot, especially with ADHD. I never saw her comment until right now. I would have liked it sooner. And yeah, that it was just a lot, and I was so overwhelmed. I really wanted to get everything done, but my coworkers were just, I think, also overwhelmed, and they just left everything to me and my brother. And then, yeah, this is a whole behind the scenes. This is like a little behind the scenes, little vlog style that I made, and it kind of blew up. Let's watch from the beginning. I don't know why, but it sounds like I have a AI voice in the beginning of recording this, but I think the mic just distorted my voice a bit for some reason, but it sounds AI right when I say hello. But I voiced this video over like really quickly. Welcome to behind the scenes of a small thrift store where I was assistant manager and I was like 22 years old and had no idea what was going on. This is the behind the scenes where all that is donations, clothing donations to be exact, that had been piling up for years or who knows how long, and that was just a mini sorting system. And we only put out one rag every day in the morning. We had about 3 staffers that were very incompetent and they worked there in that little table section, but I think it was just impossible to get through everything. So this is the table that I was telling you, and they were supposed to like price it with this computer thing, and there was only one person here, 3 people here, and then it was my brother dropping stuff off. And then there was some other people over there that I'll show you soon. But even with 4 people, they were only putting out one rack, so they were just standing around the whole day, and I would go pass by. They would stiffen up and be like, oh, are you busy? I'm like, yeah, I'm freaking busy. I'm like dying. And they would like pretend they were doing something. Oh my gosh. But yeah, oh my god. The comments are so funny. I'll get to the comments, but watch the rest of the vlog. But they had their own little system that was kind of confusing. They would like sort through and put the stuff they wanted there, and then it was later priced. But as you can see, the wall was lined and lined with clothing, so we needed a lot more staff, and those bins right there would actually be the stuff they would send to recycling companies. And I was closing in this video, turning off the lights right where the donations are at. Not very safe, but we had bins, we had books, we had bags, we had all sorts of things that you could not imagine. Working at a thrift store, you will find the most random stuff. But we always had boxes, and we were always getting rid of cardboard, and we had a contract with someone to pick them up. We didn't deal with it ourselves, but closing was kind of dangerous as a young female because anyone can come in and like hide in corners. God knows why, but you know, you never know with retail. So as you can see, just a bunch of stuff everywhere. Had to check that the doors were locked. That's where the truckers would come in to get the donated items that we no longer wanted, which was very frequent. And just doing a general walkthrough, even though it's chaos. I wonder if you would be able to work in these conditions, but we had a huge back room. It goes on and on. This other section was more for housewares, like shoes and pods and anything for the house. And this is exactly where the shoe table was at. That was a bit more controlled because someone loved shoes. But as you can see, there was chairs, toys, pods, anything that you can imagine, suitcases. We just had so much that we needed to price. But again, as a small team that's mismanaged and there's no real manager there, things can quickly become volatile. But there was cool benefits like looking at Victorian shoes and the jewelry and all the little knickknacks that you can buy at a discount. So I recommend working at a thrift store if you want the little cute knickknacks, but beware, hoarding is easy, especially when there's so many gems everywhere. But it was a hazardous thing to have so many boxes and stuff. But yeah, hopefully you liked my mini vlog. See ya. Welcome to. Okay, so that was basically the TikTok that I uploaded that got so many views. I don't think anyone has realized what actually goes on behind the scenes if you've never worked at a thrift store. You may have a concept of what's going on, but you've never seen the reality. So hopefully it opened people's eyes. That was like my goal. And people were commenting. Someone said 1 rack a day is crazy. You would hope the store was selling more than 1 rack worth of clothes in a day, right? Also, like, it's not only inefficient to deal with the donations by only putting out like 1 rack a day, but also profit wise, like you're not really introducing new stuff out in the store that quickly, and most likely you're selling more than 1 rack a day, hopefully. So you have to replenish it. So let's say you sell 3 racks, quote unquote 3 racks a day in the store. Well, the aisles are going to get empty, so you want to keep putting stuff out routinely. Most people like put stuff out, or most thrift stores put stuff out like once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, even every day. It depends on your strategy, but they put out a lot of stuff. So 1 rack a day is very, very minimal. So it was not keeping pace with not only donations, but like with profit maximization, right? Like, how are you going to make more if you're not putting out stuff? Someone says, girl, where? In Illinois, in a suburb in Illinois. It was 6 years ago, by the way. I feel like a lot of people think this was recent. Now it's way better. All of this was gone. One of my friends went to go check, very subtly, and most of it's gone. There was a huge restructure with the team. The past manager got fired. She was dealing with a lot of stuff. And like I said, I was only there for 2 months, and she basically left me alone with the whole mess, and I had no idea where to start. And at 22, it's a lot. Like, barely as a worker, you're like, oh my God, I want to run. But as a assistant manager, I felt this responsibility to fix everything. But if the manager's not there, then how are you going to possibly like take power or like get permission? So I was left defunct, basically. I was left just, let's just, like go through the trash and like fix it somehow, but you can't really do that without real authority, right? Someone says I would love to work there. Yeah, I would actually love to work in donations in a thrift store. Again, I used to work in a thrift store in Montana where I would look through all the donations, and it was much more organized. There was a flow, there was a structure to things. So that's why I stayed for 3 years, and I really enjoyed it. And that's honestly why I want to go and have my own thrift store, so I can have the privilege of looking through stuff and rehoming it. It's such a beautiful, interesting process. No matter how chaotic it is. Sorry for flipping the TikToks on you. Ben says, wish the back door at the thrift store I work at was this big, but yeah, the back room can become quickly unmanageable, insanely quickly, if you don't have a good flow setup. Yes, yeah, we were so lucky to have a huge back room. So in Montana, I actually used to only have a very small space. It was maybe like just a little small room, like maybe from here to there, just a little square was all that I had to work with. So we were very lucky to have a huge back room. It's just when there's no staff, there's no efficiency, no structure, it's chaos. But yeah, that was something interesting that happened recently. Gained 2 subscribers from it. When very well seen on TikTok in my eyes. It got me out of the 400 jail. But yeah, that's basically kind of like what I've been doing. I've been fixing up my TikTok, uploading TikToks, focusing more on Depop. I wish I had access to the thrift store now. A lot of people are like, why don't you just like sell stuff in bundles or like sell it on whatnot or whatever. I'm like, that was 6 years ago. That was 6 years ago. But yeah, that's something interesting that's been happening. But I really do want my own thrift store. That experience really did open my eyes for the better and for the worse, maybe too. But yeah, let's get into the news. I've been yapping for a long while. Hopefully, my little thrift store adventures were illuminating. But yeah, going into the news, guys. Let's get nerdy. So, Princess Polly is now becoming a B Corp, which is contentious. So, we'll get into it. MSN. Um, oh, this is from Sourcing Journal. Why is that MSN? Did they steal our article? Real? Sourcing Journal says Princess Polly is now a B Corp. B Corp. Let's see, robot voice. Last time that I tried to read every article, my voice hurt.
Princess Polly has secured a B Corp certification, welcoming the Australian online retailer to the global community of nearly 10,000 B Corp for meeting high standards of social and environmental performance, accountability, and transparency. In an industry facing complex social and environmental challenges, Princess Polly's B Corp certification signals a serious commitment to raising fashion industry standards and prioritizing outcomes for people and the planet, alongside profit, said Angie Ferrugia, acting CEO for B Lab Australia and Aotearoa New Zealand, ANZ. After a 2-year journey to this milestone, we commend Princess Polly's determination and willingness to be held accountable to high standards, now and into the future. The fast fashion destination from Down Under was founded in 2010 by Wes and Irene Bryant to target Gen Z women aged
Not the Shein ad. I'm so sorry there's a Shein ad. What the hell? How do I get rid of these ads? Also, why is a brand congratulating another fast fashion brand of joining a B Corp? Kind of suspicious.
between 16 and 25. Princess Polly expanded to the US after joining the AK Brands platform in 2018, aiming to inspire its shoppers via a constant stream of inspirational content on social media. In less than 2 years, Princess Polly became an American success. At one point, it ranked as the 5th most popular online shopping site, Piper Sandler's Taking Stock with Teens semi-annual survey found. This is an incredible accomplishment, and it marks a significant step in our ongoing journey to embed sustainability and purpose into every part of our business, Bryant said in a statement. We're proud of the progress we've made and remain committed to continuously improving and holding ourselves to high standards in everything we do. Princess Polly's earned an overall B Impact score of 86.8, almost 7 points above the qualifying baseline, 80, and nearly 36 points above ordinary business assessment scores. That score breaks down across B Lab's 5 evaluated arenas. Governance equated 14.3 points, workers at 20.9, community at 19.2, environment at 28.4, and customers at 3.
To pause the numbers, I do want to say that a B Corp certification just said Princess Polly, a fast fashion brand, is meeting high standards of social and environmental performance and meeting accountability and transparency metrics as a fast fashion brand. That is a core of why there's so much contention. Even when they say, oh, they got a 86 overall B impact score, they are still a fast fashion brand that is producing so much. And this article will get into it. But just a reminder, this is a fast fashion brand. They have room to improve, and it seems like they are improving, but they're producing way too much, and they'll explain it. They'll explain a bit more in how they're transitioning into becoming a demand fashion brand, or are a demand fashion brand, and in fact not a fast fashion brand. Therefore, they're not as bad as we think they are. which is like exactly what Shein did, if you don't remember. Shein is saying we're not a fast fashion brand, we're a on-demand brand. To remove themselves away from the problems within the fashion industry and what they're actually doing. So, this is not a very good sign that they're following. It's not a very good thing that they're doing. If you're following what Shein is doing, I don't really trust you. But let's continue on.
3.8. The Gold Coast-based retailer's publicly available answers to B Lab's disclosure questionnaire used to identify potentially sensitive issues related to the company wholly independent of its B Lab assessment score covered the elephants in the room. Greenwashing. The greenwashing issue was summarized as some independent articles/blog posts challenging Princess Polly's claims of sustainable fashion and categorizing the company as a fast fashion company, focused on unlimited growth and low-quality production. The impact on stakeholders was defined as misleading marketing claims affecting consumers' choices with overconsumption and irresponsible apparel production, posing a great risk of environmental degradation and human rights violations. Princess Polly's implemented management practices? Semantics. The term fast fashion is often associated with microtrends, rapid production, low-quality materials, cheap pricing, and unethical manufacturing, the questionnaire reads. Princess Polly, however, identifies as a demand fashion brand rather than a fast fashion brand.
Princess Polly identifies as a demand fashion brand, rather a fast fashion brand. That is literally what we just heard. That's crazy. They know exactly what they're doing. They know that they're a fast fashion brand and they don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to fix it. They're instead saying we're a demand fashion brand and we're just a B Corp now. So you can go suck your little complaints and go shove it somewhere else. I think that's what they're saying. That's the vibe. And I think it's at the core of it, just narrative shifting. They're BSing their way out of a problem. They're being like, yeah, you can say whatever you want, but we're actually demand fashion, not fast fashion, okay? Get your facts straight.
While the difference between demand fashion and fast fashion is vague, McKinsey's January article on fast fashion described ultra-fast fashion as retailers evolving the traditional business model with condensed solutions, like demand-driven trend modeling. By leveraging proprietary demand and trend forecasting tools, they can quickly bring trends to market without overproduction, the questionnaire read. Their just-in-time replenishment model ensures accessible pricing, as excess inventory costs are not factored into their pricing structure. While
Wait, let's pause for a second. They're explaining that they're a demand brand because they're leveraging propriety demand. I don't even know what that word is. They're prioritizing some sort of demand, prioritizing trends to quickly bring those trends to market without overproduction. So essentially what they're saying is they're not a fast fashion brand because they only produce fast fashion when it's on demand. So they're making the assumption or the conclusion or the logic here that fast fashion is only fast fashion when it's one, trendy, when it's two, cheap, and when it's three, overproducing or is overproduction. But just because you're producing stuff when it's ordered or when it's like paid for doesn't mean that it's still not going to cause overproduction. Like people will still throw it away and just buy and buy and buy. So inherently it's still fast fashion. You're not preventing textile waste. You're just making sure that you're not making more stuff that's not going to sell. That's efficient for you. It's not efficient for the planet. It's not efficient for avoiding textile waste and landfills or for the global south. That's just you saying we've gotten a better idea of how to run our business so that we don't even make the stuff that's not going to sell. And I think it just causes them to be more fast driven because if someone orders something, they quickly have to make it. They have to quickly like ship it and then prioritize that consumer. So I think there's more pressure to act fast when there's only so much time to reach that item to the consumer. And they don't say that. They don't explain it. And then they keep their supply chain very murky. Like you can't lie to us and be like, oh, we're not fast fashion because we're not overproducing. Yeah, you are overproducing. You are. Who are you lying to, bro?
Parent company aka Brands does utilize a data-driven test and repeat merchandising model as to introduce new styles every week. The details or functionalities of Princess Polly's proprietary demand and trend forecasting tools and replenishment models are not clear. Princess Polly has a comprehensive ethical sourcing program. All product factories undergo valid ethical manufacturing audits and are visited in person by the Princess Polly team at least every 2 years. The disclosure.
So I've been a huge proponent for third-party audits, which is basically when someone else outside of the brand or outside of the factory basically go visit the manufacturing site or the factory site and do an audit to really see the real scope of what's going on. And they have to come in with a surprise, it's like a surprise happy birthday visit but for a manufacturer, for a factory basically. You can't have, or you shouldn't have, a person from your own team just come in on a pre-scheduled time to take a very controlled visit to a certain factory every 2 years to understand what's going on in your supply chain, to basically ensure ethical sourcing. You know how much goes on within maybe 6 months of ethical sourcing? So much can change. So much new employees can come in. So many different elements and problems can emerge within even weeks. Like if you're in a business, like things are always happening. So for them to only visit for every 2 years to guarantee ethical sourcing is kind of worrisome. And then when it's their own team visiting, well, that thing is controlled. They've picked the best factory. They've picked the best employees. Everything is meant to have them get a quote-unquote good hashtag great ethical sourcing program down so that their corporate social responsibility report will come out great. And then that's how they get their B plus score on all these other records. And then they just look like an amazing brand when workers are still being exploited, when there's mice in the factories, when doors are still locked on the poor workers. So let's say a fire breaks out, they can't escape, which is often the case for garment workers working in factories. So a third-party audit outside of their control is needed, and it's needed for every brand, especially fast fashion brands who hate to admit that they're even fast fashion in the first place.
Disclosure report continued. Their 5A's ethical sourcing program won Best Ethical Sourcing Initiative at the 2023 National Online Retailers Association, NORA, Sustainability Awards, and in 2024, the brand achieved the highest bracket in the Baptist World AIDS Ethical Fashion Report.
Oh my god, their auditors are so good. They got them an award. Oh, that corporate social responsibility officer really did get a raise. I don't know what the auditor put in that report, but they chose the best factory. I wonder if they can... Okay, this is an idea. I wonder if fast fashion brands can subcontract a factory to produce Princess Polly clothing on a temporary basis so that the auditors from their own brand can visit that factory that they subcontracted to specifically go there so they can make that audit that reflects well on their brand overall, and then remove the subcontract when the audit's over and then just resort back to the other factories. That would be the ultimate ethical sourcing loophole for their own report so they can continue to win stuff. Because how do we know that the places that they visited was a permanent location or a subcontract location? If it's subcontracted, it means that it's temporary work in a factory that they don't own, and then the business manager just like is in charge of like the workers and gets paid a certain amount to do so. So I don't know what factories they went to, but if they're owned by Princess Polly and they always have work done there, then I can kind of believe it. But I don't even know where I would look for the factories that they're doing their stuff at. Like, this isn't usually public information for the average consumer, and most average consumers are not being like, I wonder which product factories Princess Polly did their audit on for every 2 years that they have to do it. That's not a normal question. So when it comes out that they're now a B Corp, that kind of illuminates all of these things that they're doing, and it should make us question, like, what are they actually doing to like have the certification? Are they lying to us? Like, what? How do we know the truth is the question. Like, there is no information, there's no transparency, there's no accountability. So how do we even figure this out when there's nothing on their website? And it can be frustrating for the normal person that's looking from this with a question of like, I would just want to know that I'm not contributing to exploitation and like greenwashing or or any other issue. There's so many issues, my mind blanked. Oh my gosh.
Social responsibility highlights, meanwhile, include 30% of all new arrivals are made from lower impact materials. On average, Princess Polly releases up to 150 new items every single week, according to the Apple Store app description. As of July 15th, Princess Polly's website defined 720 styles as new. Of those 720 styles, 42 were categorized as lower impact. Princess Polly launched its Lower Impact Material Guide in 2022, with most items in the range created with a material composition of 80% lower impact materials. All items in the range comprise at least 50% lower.
Okay, it's getting a bit too it's too nerdy. I don't know what they're saying. Um Oh my god. I just wonder, is this like a marketing ploy? How is it that this is not a fast fashion brand if they're releasing so many items? Like, they literally just said they're releasing 150 new items every single week, which in sum is 600 items, but that doesn't really include the quantities being sold. So let's say they release like 600 new items every month, but they sell like thousands and thousands of units of it. Like, they're selling basically tens to 20, 30,000 pieces, maybe more, maybe 100K, maybe a million pieces. I don't know how much they sell for each single item that they release every week, but I just want to question like their B Corp certification, and a lot of other people have been questioning it as well, and also wondering like, is this legit? Like, should we trust this? And TikTok is such a great place to like hear like-minded people kind of contemplating this. Excuse my English. So let's watch her. She's I hate when TikTok just starts playing the video without you pressing play. Stop. Uh but yeah, this is by Fashion Parade SG.
Now officially B Corp certified. Don't be fooled by labels, because Princess Polly is now officially B Corp certified. A brand built off fast trends, synthetic fabrics, and overconsumption is now officially sustainable. B Corp certification is supposed to mean that a brand meets high standards of social and environmental performance, accountability, and transparency. Sounds good, right? But Princess Polly is one of Australia's biggest ultra-fast fashion brands. They pump out hundreds of styles each week, encourage constant shopping hauls, and rely heavily on polyester, which is one of the biggest contributors to microplastics in our oceans. So how exactly does this align with sustainability? Here's the thing. In recent years, B Corp has come under fire for greenwashing. Critics say that they offer a stamp of approval without real accountability, a feel-good badge for companies that can afford it and not those necessarily doing the work. This feels less like progress and more like two companies helping each other out while consumers are left confused. Always ask, who benefits from this certification? Because sustainability isn't a badge, it's a commitment.
Yeah, I really liked her perspective, and her video was so well put together. It was really fun to watch. I actually really like her. She follows me back on Instagram. They follow me back on Instagram. But yeah, this is Fashion Parade SG. It's all about sustainable and circular fashion. I don't know if it's her account or if it's an organization's account, but I've seen them on Instagram as well. I am a huge fan. Huge fan. But there's also been other accounts as well talking about similar points. So let's get into what other people are saying. I was like fangirling for a second. 1 second for the fangirls.
These are words I never thought I'd be uttering, but Princess Polly has received a B Corp certification. Yes, one of Australia's most known fast fashion retailers has received a B Corp certification. A brand with hundreds of styles under $20 has received an environmental pat on the back. Business of Fashion put it plainly, can an ultra-fast fashion brand be sustainable? Because that's exactly what Princess Polly is trying to market themselves as. We should not be celebrating news like this. At its best, it's just a marketing ploy for Princess Polly to get more people to buy their clothes. At its worst, it really negates the good work that's actually done in this space. It's wild that they are trying to convince us that fast fashion can be sustainable. These two things are polar opposites. Overproduction is one of the biggest issues in fashion right now. So how can Princess Polly release up to 150 new styles per week? And currently on their new style section, there are 720 pieces there. How is that sustainable? And a reminder to stay critical, because this paragraph on living wages sounds fine, it sounds good, but they actually say nothing. They don't give timelines, they don't give how they're on this journey. They actually just say they're committed to continuing this discussion. So they're committed to talking about it without doing anything. Certifications can be great, but they're not the be all and end all. And as we've seen here, they can be bastardized as well. So Princess Polly, we're watching you.
Yeah, if they're not actually taking action, like what are they actually, doing is a very interesting question to always ask. Because we can talk and talk and talk, but like at the end of the day, like we do need action, like real action. So that was a initial take that I saw, and then someone else kind of added on to that as well. So let's look at this one. Yes, it's this one.
Alright, so Princess Polly is now B Corp certified. Let's talk about it. So for starters, as a fellow B Corp, we actually think it's great to see more brands stepping up and trying to implement better practices for people on the planet. Getting a B Corp certification is not easy. It is a really lengthy process, and getting certified does mean that you have taken steps to improve your impact. But
they were saying it takes 2 years to have the certification be given to you, and like another TikToker was saying, it does cost a lot of money. So I do wonder about the certification requirements and like why it takes so long in general. But it's very interesting how she has the perspective of like a fellow B Corp brand owner. So
there is actually a common misconception about the B Corp certification, and that is that it is just an environmental certification. That's actually not the case. To get a B Corp certification, you get assessed in these 5 different categories. So we've got governance, workers, environment, community, and customers. The planet is part of it, but it's just one part of the pie. So
oh my god, there's so many different things. Customers, community, environment, workers, and governance. How do they even get past? How does a fast fashion brand pass all this stuff? I know that another girl was saying allegedly the B Corps is like getting greenwashed and they're just letting anyone get certified. But if it's 2 years worth of like work and then all these fees and all these pillars, how do they even get away with this? Who did they talk to?
For example, a brand might score really highly in governance, like having a board of directors or really strong transparency policies, or in how they treat their team, but they're not necessarily in sustainable materials or reducing their emissions. And you can actually click through on the B Corp website into Princess Polly's page and see where they scored their points. And then you can decide for yourself whether that aligns with what you care about. So while a B Corp certification is definitely a very useful tool, is not the full story, and that's why it's so important to look beyond the badge. A B Corp score will not tell you if a brand is dropping hundreds of new styles on their website every week or if their entire business model hinges on overproduction. And that's where it gets really tricky, because it would be so great if there was like a green tick that you could look at and be like, yep, I can buy from this business guilt-free. but that is just not the reality. We still need to read, research, and ask our own questions and be really discerning about where we are buying from. The good news though is that you actually have to reapply for your B Corp certification every 3 years, and the goal is that you continue improving over time. So we're actually really curious to see where Princess Polly goes from here. And if this whole internet frenzy about Princess Polly achieving a B Corp certification has shown us anything, it's that people actually really care where their stuff comes from, and in our eyes, that is pretty epic. Okay, so let me know in the comments what you think. I would love to chat.
So they're gonna lose their B Corp certification in 3 years. A win is a win. No, I'm kidding. I feel like fast fashion brands always have room for improvement. And I always try to see things in a positive way. I'm like, okay, well, the B Corp certification can probably help them improve a lot of the issues that they have in their supply chain. It can probably help with the not the economical, what am I saying? I'm becoming a capitalist as well. I become a capitalist.
The good news.
I just care about them improving their economic well-being, hence profit, hence capitalism, hence the push to the bottom. No, I'm kidding. But so it seems like they do have potential of improving not only their environmental impact, but their community impact, their customers impact, governance impact, and the workers impact. But like the other TikToker was saying, like they are in conversations about paying fair wage to their workers. But just because you're saying you're having conversations doesn't really mean that you're taking action. So I am optimistic, but at the same time, it's like most of the years past, they've demonstrated over and over again that they're not going to pay their workers a livable wage, much less a fair wage. So I do think that the self-audits could actually be a bit more revealing of what their real score is and the real work they have to do to continue to improve. So if anything, I want the audits to come out of this and for them to actually be honest about what's happening in their brand and maybe take action towards that if they want to actually walk the walk instead of just like looking like they walk towards change. So very interesting coming from a B Corp brand that they are kind of hesitant as well. They were like, yeah, like what's going on B Corps, but I mean, fast fashion brands don't really need to do anything if they're just able to get away with just saying that they're doing something. And then this person trashing on
Australian fast fashion brand have just been made a B Corporation, and we need to have a chat about why that's so damaging. A B Corporation certification is essentially a certification that's adjudicated by an independent body called the B Corp Labs, or I think they're called B Labs. And essentially what they do is they judge a business on its environmental credentials, its social credentials, and also its ethics and values. And they're basically trying to incentivize there to be a movement of businesses that are doing things better. So they're essentially meant to be top tier businesses, the best in the world. So by their B Corporation is meant to be a company that demonstrates high social and environmental performance. They also make a legal commitment to changing their corporate and governance structures in order to hold stakeholders accountable, and they're also meant to exhibit transparency by allowing information to be measured and collected on their business behaviours. There are already fashion companies that have B Corp certification, so Ganni is one of them, and also a well-known Irish designer, Aoife McNamara, also has B Corp certification. The reason that people are kicking off about Princess Polly getting B Corp certification is that B Corp is meant to kind of be an echelon above the rest, and Princess Polly is essentially an ultra fast fashion brand, and it just doesn't seem to be coherent. Better, like doing business in a better way and then also producing a huge insane amount of clothing. There's already been a bit of controversy over some brands getting B Corp certification, particularly because one of the scoring systems they use for fashion companies is that you need to show there's a percentage of recycled materials in the clothing.
She's kind of already talking about what every other TikToker was saying. Let's see.
And obviously that.
Let's see. Let's skip forward.
And equally, quality assurance, environmental supply chain engagement, as well as ethical partnerships, and they have this little bit about their road towards sustainability. Honestly, I call bullshit. A huge issue that we see with so many companies and ESG ratings in general, as well as all these different type of assessment models and ways of understanding how good a business is quite often they're not really evidence-based. And when I say not evidence-based, I'm essentially saying that often they ask companies if they have policies in place, but look at assessing how good these policies are. So you can essentially just tick a box and say, yeah, I have a supply chain policy, but no one's going to go and actually check to see if there's evidence of how well the supply chain policy is working down your supply chain. But I think the real reason that people are kicking off about the Princess Polly thing is essentially because Princess Polly is an ultra fashion brand. And when I say ultra fast fashion, Princess Poppy has been known to release 150 different styles per week on their website. That is not normal. And we've actually already seen that the B Corp certification is coming under fire with really good brands like Dr. Bronner's. They're actually ditching the B Corp status because they say the integrity has become compromised and they don't really trust the process anymore. But the worst part about this whole is essentially that the signal it's sending to consumers. By equating fast fashion with B Corp certification, you're essentially saying to people the business model is grand and I always so much tech waste in the world and we're really not able to find a solution for it yet. And it's waste in the world and we're really not able to find a solution for it yet. And it's just a huge problem, and I really think that this certification for a fast fashion brand is honestly damning, and I just don't know if I can trust B-Lab anymore. I'm interested to hear your take though. Do you think that Princess Polly are in the right? Is it okay that they actually got this certification? And what does this mean for the fashion industry moving forward?
She had a very comprehensive take, which I really do appreciate. I mean, I do wonder, like, where Princess Polly is going to take this B Corp certification and, like, whether this is actually a real thing that they care about, or is it just a ploy by corporate sustainability officers or by executives trying to appeal to more younger consumers that they know are buying from this brand and who are suffering a bit more from eco-anxiety or like climate anxiety, because their target market is 18 to like 25-year-olds who are like most likely more socially aware about the issues in the industry and who care about the planet, who care about people. So I do think they understand their consumers really well and trying to appeal to them in some way, and know that maybe they don't have to do a lot if B Corp is just very flexible and they can do their own audits and they can take this certification however they want in whatever direction they desire without any real repercussions. So that's to get a couple more TikToks and then we'll move on for the sake of time. But again, I don't think that B Corp is intentionally trying to be harmful, and I don't think Princess Polly is intentionally trying to be harmful. I think it's just both organizations need a lot of room to grow, but most likely they won't grow if there's no forced accountability or forced transparency or like set processes they have to do to ensure that they're actually being honest and doing what they say they're doing. And I think that distrust can really affect not only Princess Polly but also B Corp in the long run. So it's not a strategic business move, it's just a money hungry move.
I really think this might be a nail in the coffin for B Corp. B Corp have been in trouble for a while now, and just when we were expecting them to like raise the bar, change the standards, do better, they go and certify a fast fashion brand. Dr. Bronner's, who had an incredibly high B Corp score, already decided to leave because they were not impressed with B Corp. One of the biggest reasons they gave for leaving is that they were certifying like Unilever brands and Nestle brands like Nescafe, and they were pissed off. Like, they took the work and the money to get the certification, which promised to be like about ethical brands, and they gave it some of the least ethical brands going. Now, I might be wrong, like tell me where you started, but I feel like so many ethical consumers start off with boycotting Nestle. They are just so awful, and if you need a starting point, just Google Nestle baby milk scandal and never buy from them again, you're welcome. The fact that they gave a B Corp certification to a Nestle brand was like the nail in the coffin for so many shoppers. I never trusted B Corp after that, and I know a lot of people didn't. I don't feel that trust anymore. I will now look at a B Corp logo and think I want to do further research. So Dr. Bronner's were out, and so was like, oh, that was a pet food brand. Scrumbles, it also left because it felt like a marketing badge. It felt like a type of greenwashing. It felt like you could buy your way into it. You could like, I don't know, just get some easy wins to get over their score category. It just didn't feel worth it. The amount of hours and money that goes into it for a small business to just rub shoulders with Unilever and Nestle under an ethical certification, it wasn't worth it. It lost so much credibility in the movement. I don't know if you guys have heard about Ethical Consumer. I really recommend them. They send out magazines. You can also do that online. I actually quite like having something physical that keeps me offline. They also have an incredible directory online where you can kind of like look through companies, see like a really quick score, but then also a deep dive into what's good and bad about them. I've been paying for a subscription for quite a while now. It's really affordable, to be honest. It's one of the few subscriptions I'm not mad to be paying. Yeah, I'll see like Danone with a B Corp certification, Ethical Consumer being like, nah. They're very low down. I just think B Corp is just not worth it. It's not. And just to see the Princess Polly thing, it's just exasperating. Like, I went and looked at the website. I was like, maybe I'm wrong, but it's still a lot of micro trends. It's still a lot of like polyester. Sure, they might be doing better. They might be making some good changes, but does that mean they should be a B Corp? And honestly, B Corp know they've had issues. They know that they're losing trust, but they're not moving fast enough. They haven't paused the applications. They are still giving out these certifications to brands that are rubbing us lot up the wrong way. Might be a flaw in their system and their calculation, but they're not fixing it fast enough to stop the trust eroding. So they can update everything next year, they can be so much better, but how are they going to win back our trust when it's already deteriorated so much? I really just think it's the end for them. I don't know how they come back from this, but you let me know. Do you think there is a chance of that? Do you think it still holds some weight? Or are they just gonna fully transition into being the greenwashing certification? Because I'm sure there's a lot of money there. I'm sure brands like Nestle, Unilever, etc. very happy to pay a lot of money to get the certification and get the gold star. But they will be losing out on all the sincere, ethical, smaller businesses that built the B Corp certification.
She definitely does put it in perspective that a lot of brands that are trying to do good, genuinely do good, are pulling out because of all this corporate interest and corporate partnerships within the same certification that they're under is very telling. And I do think that B Corp certification has a vested interest in staying the same, meaning they're not going to change their practices if they're getting millions from having Princess Polly be certified under their certification. So I don't necessarily think they care about keeping people's trust or the consumers' trust when they're making millions. At the end of the day, they're working with corporations. I think they kind of knew what they were going to get themselves into once they started working with corporations that have a history of not doing stuff. But if Princess Polly can certify these audits and basically say we're ethically sourcing our stuff and there's quote-unquote proof to show that, I think that's enough for B Corps, and the money will justify not looking into it. I feel like to strengthen B Corps, they should do the audits themselves with honesty and transparency and put more structure upon brands to essentially maybe force them to change. And if they don't change or they don't have external pressure to do like what's supposed to be done, then they're kind of cut from the certification. But if that's not happening, I think B Corps is just in it for the money, like she was saying. I agree with her. So one of the last two, we're going to watch are these two, and then we're going to move on. I'm going to take a little break.
If op shops are full of...
She already talked about a lot of similar points from the other one, so let's watch this one.
What the hell? 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 What the hell?
So this is a prime example of how Princess Polly is essentially a fast fashion brand, and yet this is what high sustainability means. This is what B Corp means. This is what good eco practices means, and yet it's like they look and feel like any atypical fashion brand, and they're saying they're a demand fashion brand that cares, yet their clothing does not look like they got any care, anything that really distinguishes them from fast fashion. Can you imagine if this was high quality, this was well made, this was beautiful? Maybe we could actually believe their reports, their score, their B Corp certification, but I think the clothing speaks for itself, and that's enough to say, like, if you don't want to be seen as a fast fashion brand, maybe stop acting like a fast fashion brand and stop producing fast fashion items. You know? I'm just kind of just saying, you know? So yeah, that's something that has emerged. Oh my god, I just read this comment. I'm blinking my eyes rapidly trying to process this. Oh my god, fast fashion brands are so funny. They have the audacity to do whatever they can to seem like they actually care. Uh, but yeah, I don't trust this whatsoever. I do want to know what you think, as always. But yeah, a lot of contention. A lot of contentious opinions everywhere, and it is not in favor of Princess Polly whatsoever. So I think in that way, that is a net plus because we are collectively hating on Princess Polly. And I think that's what it needs to learn how to actually change for the better. But to move on, I do want to talk about a recent development where Mattel has released a new Barbie that has type 1 diabetes, and I'm so happy to see it. I think Barbie is such a great part of my childhood that I dearly miss, and Mattel is stepping into the right direction within certain things, obviously not in everything. It's been using like AI and stuff. But here are the diabetes 1 girls. That sounds so weird, but I do think we need more representation with those suffering from like chronic illness. They have type 1 diabetes, which is not like from something that comes from a lifestyle. It comes more so from out of their control, you know, like it's a chronic illness. They didn't choose to have this basically. But let's listen to this article by Thread to learn more.
Mattel's new doll has type 1 diabetes, marking another inclusive step for the brand. But response to the launch highlights a persistent lack of education around the disease and the need to dismantle stigma. Mattel's latest addition to its Barbie lineup, a doll with type 1 diabetes, might seem like a small plastic step, but its release has quickly become a barometer for public understanding, or misunderstanding, of chronic illness. Unveiled in partnership with UK charity Breakthrough T1D, the new doll comes equipped with a continuous glucose monitor, CGM, on her arm and an insulin pump clipped to her waistband, reflecting the real-life medical tools used by many with the condition. But the release has already triggered an eye-opening debate around diabetes and inadvertently highlighted the pertinence of the doll's existence. Some have praised Mattel for another addition to its steadily growing roster of inclusive dolls. These have included a transgender Barbie, a Barbie with Down syndrome, and most recently a blind Barbie. But others have responded with a troubling lack of empathy or understanding of what the new doll represents.
Which is so sad to see. How is it that you're so ableist and so centered on having this perfect concept of a woman or like this perfect Barbie that you can't see the reality of humans and like of females? Like we're all different. We all have different needs. We can have Down syndrome. We can have different ideas of what our gender should be. I don't know how it hurts anyone that another person is like transgender, or like, how is it harmful that someone else is blind? Like, they're the ones dealing with this, not you. Like, how do you not even have empathy when they're dealing with the most difficult things ever? So, it just saddens me. People have such audacious opinions, and it's a doll. And the dolls reflect female experiences. We can't be perfect. We can't be perfect.
On social media, users have flooded posts with negative comments, ranging from cruel to plain ignorant. This is telling of how young children are getting diabetes these days, wrote one user. Another chastised Mattel for promoting something that is, in their words, entirely avoidable.
Okay, so diabetes type 1 is a chronic illness with no known cure, and it's passed genetically. So, like, Mattel is not promoting diabetes. It's just providing representation because representation matters. I don't think white Republican men know what inclusivity and representation means. And I feel like it's really important for children, no matter if they're female or male or transgender, that they can see themselves in some way within a doll that they will grow up playing with. Like, my dolls really did shape how I became to see the world. It allowed me to dream to be a fashion designer. I would design clothing for my Barbies day in and day out. They were my best friends. I was an introverted child, so I preferred to be with my Barbies than with real humans. And it's empowering to see Barbies from all different backgrounds and perspectives and careers. Back when I was a kid in like the 2000s, like, I only had white Barbies to deal with. If I had a black Barbie, it was because I found her in a thrift store, not because it was in the store. You know, I had like the older model Barbies. Um, so I do think that there is a lot of stigma and isolation that comes from not seeing yourself within media or within toys. But like, stigma should not be normalized and isolation should not be normalized. I think if we continue stigmas, if we continue isolation for these poor children because they don't see themselves in anything and they can't resonate with anything around them, we just provoke a lot of difficult ideas in their head of like, oh, am I not good enough? Am I not pretty? Am I not thin enough? When like everyone comes in all different shapes and and backgrounds. Like, it's not realistic to be like, you can only be a white thin female. That's not the majority of our world. It's really not. And I think there needs to be more understanding. But like, when we're so used to Western ideology within the media, within toys and everything around us, then this can really provoke a lot of nasty comments and nasty opinions, almost as if they have ownership about what kids should play with and what they should become. Like, it's very telling that colonialism has gotten the worst of others. Let's get into the rest of the article before I get more pissed off. I'm surely gonna get more pissed off because these Republican conservatives, or whatever they're coming from, like, I don't really care what political side that you are on. Like, as long as you're, you know what, I don't really care for the Republicans. I'm gonna blame it on them.
In reality, type 1 diabetes is a chronic illness with no known cure. It's often passed down genetically within families, and those living with the disease face a range of health issues ranging from damaged eyesight to limb damage and shorter lifespan. This is entirely separate illness from type 2 diabetes, which is caused by an unhealthy diet. Both diseases are often confused, leading to stigma towards sufferers of both type 1 and type 2 diabetes, but notably a widespread assumption that those living with the former are sick due to lifestyle choices. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition, not a lifestyle disease. It typically develops in childhood and is completely unrelated to diet, sugar consumption, or exercise. According to Breakthrough T1D, over 29,000 children in the UK live with type 1, a number that continues to rise annually. Related articles. Credit Unsplash. Media by Flo Bellinger.
No.
Barbie's latest attempt at inclusivity has mixed reviews. Credit Barbie. Fashion plus Beauty by Sophia
Why is
Phillips.
it reading this?
Barbie launches its first doll with hearing aids. Credit Barbie. Companies by
What?
Credit Barbie. Companies by Flo Bellinger. Mattel introduces the first transgender Barbie doll. Unlike type 2 diabetes,
Okay,
which is often linked to lifestyle and can sometimes be prevented, type 1 is chronic, incurable, and requires lifelong management. Yet the comments under Mattel's announcement make it clear the distinction is still not widely understood, and that ignorance breeds stigma. This ignorance, as diabetes advocates have long pointed out, doesn't just exist online. It follows children into classrooms, birthday parties, and sports fields. Kids with type 1 often have to explain, repeatedly, that their condition is not their fault. That they're not sick because they ate too much sugar. That their insulin pumps aren't weird. A doll like this, then, becomes more than just a toy. It becomes a tool for empathy and education, both of which normalize the visible signs of an invisible illness. It's part of a larger trajectory Mattel has been carving out for years. Under the brand's
I do want to say before the article continues on, is that there's this sense a lot of times within the United States of individualism, and it can come out in a lot of different ways. And I feel like individualism in this sense, with the culture that we have that prioritizes Western ideologies, Western beauties, is like this is a personal failure if you have some sort of sickness. It is your fault that you're not perfect. It is your fault that you're not achieving the norms. It is your fault if you're not achieving the standards that call us, better than others. You know what I mean? Like, it's always so competitive, and we've normalized so many different things, and a lot of people have almost shamed those that are different from them in the most microaggressive way. Like, for example, if you're size 10 or 12 or 14, which is like literally the average size for a woman, that's villainized within the fashion industry. You're called fat, you're called less than, you're called ugly. But that's the reality of the normal lived experiences of a woman. It's just we're surrounded by all these toxic thoughts from like Western men of like, oh, you can only be this and this to be seen as beautiful. And I think we just need less shame, less judgment, and more sense of like empathy, like the article is saying, where we can just try to understand where the children are coming from. And it's just interesting how not only adults but other children are like, oh, did you eat too much sugar? Like, what sort of comments are that? Like, it's just a nonsensical logic to be treating children so cruelly. There is literally no need. There's no need to be nasty. No need to be nasty.
It's part of a larger trajectory Mattel has been carving out for years. Under the brand's ongoing Barbie Fashionistas initiative, the company has gradually expanded its range to include dolls with vitiligo, hearing aids, wheelchairs, and prosthetic limbs. Each of these launches has been met with applause from some quarters and outrage from others, often with the predictable accusation that Barbie has become too woke, or that the brand is trying to tick every box in some imagined inclusivity checklist. But the reality is that Barbie, for decades, excluded anyone who didn't fit the narrow mold of white, able-bodied, cis, thin perfection. That version of Barbie was inherently political and ideological in that she told generations of girls what beauty should look like, and anything outside of that frame was rendered invisible. So when detractors now claim Mattel is catering to niche consumers, what they're really saying is, representation for anyone outside the mainstream still feels optional. It reflects a culture where chronic illness is misunderstood. When people confuse type 1 and type 2 diabetes, it not only diminishes the unique challenges of each condition, it contributes to harmful narratives that shame the very people who need support. This is why visibility matters. A doll can't change public health policy, but it can start a conversation that interrupts the cycle of ignorance.
When people start to assume that beauty is white, beauty is able-bodied, beauty is cis, and beauty is thin perfection, you give audacity to those that are used to it. Those that are white, able-bodied, cis, and thin have a sense of privilege or entitlement that everyone else should therefore be like them because they're perfect and therefore they're right and therefore they're morally better than everyone else. So they are the ones that are making sense and have the logic, which is not true whatsoever. It's just the privilege, the elitism, the classism, the ableism that they have is just such a narrow focus that if no one else fits it, they're like, that's not what we need. That's not accepted anymore, when the ideal is very unrealistic. And for someone that was Latina and like a bit taller than average girls and just very much to my own world, I was only really exposed to these dolls as like an example of like what an adult female could look like that could be my friend. I don't think it really distorted me that much. Lucky enough, I was in a very Latino and African American community. I had a lot of different people in my classrooms, a lot of diversity, a lot of inclusivity. So I never really suffered from like racism growing up. Everyone was super accepting from our backgrounds. It's just when you're playing with dolls and that's like your whole world, for most of the summer, for most evenings, and that's what you design clothing for. That can really affect you in how you design clothing, how you play with others, who you think is acceptable when you grow up. It can be very subliminal and can actually be very damaging and forming real relationships with people that do not look white, that do not look able-bodied or are able-bodied, who are not cis and who are not thin. So to have Mattel actually like cater for like everyone just shows that they're not only interested in like selling to quote-unquote niche consumers, which are not niche consumers, but like it's just appealing to everyone. And maybe that's for like their own profit, like it's for their own wallet, right? But like I do think it shows a more concrete, grounded reality of like what they're producing, which is dolls should and be what everyone else is, which is normal and with chronic illnesses and transgender and dealing with blindness. Like these are normal things that we all go through. It's not that, I guess, big of a deal. It's just reality. Like we all are experiencing different things. We're not all privileged.
After more than 6 decades of Barbie, there's no question the beloved doll can do it all. She rocks different hairstyles, explores countless careers, and celebrates different backgrounds. Express yourself. And this week, doll maker Mattel is expanding her repertoire, introducing the first Barbie doll with type 1 diabetes. After past criticism over Barbie's early lack of diversity, Mattel says it marks an important step in our commitment to inclusivity and enables more children to see themselves reflected in Barbie. Children like Eloise.
I've always wanted a Barbie just like me that has a pump like me and a Dexcom like me.
Reactions already pouring in.
She's just like me.
Mattel worked with nonprofit Breakthrough T1D to develop the doll.
You got the chance to give some kids the Barbie, and what was their reaction?
It was amazing, the moment that we unveiled Barbie. The screams, the shrieks, the joy was extraordinary. Frankly, the tears. I was crying. The kids were crying. Then they started.
And top stories on the NBC News app or watch live.
Streams are made for glitches. Streams are made for glitches. Let's get back to the video because it glitched out. Blah, 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 blah.
After more than 6
she sees in herself, which is so she for when she
blah, 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 blah. Oh my god, I glitched out so bad. I'm so sorry. Sketchy internet. Sketchy internet. Okay, let's watch this part.
Mattel showed us her continuous glucose monitor.
What does it do?
Maybe hopefully.
Just like Barbie's.
when she saw this Barbie, it's the only time I've seen.
Okay, let's watch this TikTok and then we'll move on because my internet is glitching. I'm so sorry if you're watching. It's been acting up around 5 p.m. Don't know why. It was working well. My internet's sketchy sometimes. I don't know what's going on. I think someone was mowing the lawn and the router must have gotten an effect. I don't even know. Okay, let's watch this TikTok.
Why am I crying? Because
So
I was
cute.
like, oh, it's a purse. Like, how cute, right? And then I open it and it's
blood sugar test
I'm
strips.
so emo. It's for your blood sugar supplies. Duh. I'm crying. That's so cute. That's really so cute.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh.
And I'm bad like the Barbie. I'm a doll, but I still wanna party. Pink felt like I'm ready to bend. I'm a 10, so I pull in a Ken. Like Jazzy, Stacy, Nikki. All of the Barbies is pretty. All of the Barbies.
Wow. I want that PR package. Give me on the Mattel PR package list, please. It was a lot of stuff they gave them. That's so interesting. Let's see the actual doll though.
I just received this big pink box in the mail, and for some reason I think that it's the type 1 Barbie. It is National Diabetes Week here in Australia, so if this is the T1D Barbie, it's just very fitting. Oh, fuck. I'm not okay. I'm absolutely not okay. Let's open her up. Let's open her up. I really thought of everything. I just want to show you. This is like her phone. And it's fully got
the
her levels on
phone.
there. Oh, I got a little note. Oh, it says, so every child can see themselves in the stories they imagine and the dolls that they love. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Just realized we're kind of matching with the blue and we both have our little sights here.
This is such a wholesome moment, but it's so sad that they're finally having this moment after their whole life. Imagine if they had this doll when they were kids. I think it would have healed so much for their struggles, for their life. Mattel, what were you doing 20 years ago? Should have acted faster, gotten the bread faster, catered to the niche customers sooner. What are y'all doing? We watched this one already. Well, it's good that it's out now, you know?
So just so familiar, baby, what do you call it? Stupid.
Okay, so this TikTok was pointing out the ugly comments. So someone was saying triple her size and give her a box of Twinkies. Which is so rude because it's assuming that she has type 2 diabetes, which is a lifestyle and not a chronic illness. Like, it doesn't really help though to like triple her size if she has diabetes type 2, you know? And to give her Twinkies is just bullying her and shaming her for even having diabetes in the first place, which is ableist of them, and also it fat shames them as well. Or fat shames the doll through this quote unquote joke.
Or is it?
Someone said Ozempic kit purchased separately. That's such an ugly comment. Why are they just hyper fixated on the weight thing? Like, do people really think that you can only be pretty if you're thin? You don't need to take Ozempic, even if you have diabetes type 2 diabetes, you know? This is so worrisome. Imagine if I start getting known on the internet and people are like, you should get Ozempic. I would be like, bro, blocked? People just have so much audacity nowadays. Like, what is in their brain? Ivanov, Alex? Hopefully they heal their brain because they don't got logic in there. Is her name Sugar Barbie? That's so rude. His name is William Bonnet. William Sugar Barbie. She has diabetes, type 1 diabetes. She's a child. Why are you talking, Sugar Barbie? That is so rude. It's almost like they're saying, oh, she's just obsessed with sugar, hence she's sick. This wasn't a choice. So is she missing a foot? What? It's missing a few 100 pounds in a motorized wheelchair. That is so mean. Kyle Lar. I'm noticing that a lot of these are men, and they sound like they're white men. I'm trying to see a pattern here, and that's most likely what I'm seeing. Pathetic. Oh, that's so sad. Why would they say she's pathetic? These are straight up bullies. Imagine if someone in real life goes up to a kid with type 1 diabetes and just says pathetic. And where's your sugar? What? Are these people not grown? Jimmy says, oh great, now kids can't even pretend to be healthy. Right, like the point of life is to pretend that you're healthy. Another person says, does she include cart with no way. Why they move that one away so fast? Wait. Oh. TikTok, stop. I'm fighting with TikTok now. It says, does she include cart with donuts, instant ramen, and chips, or sold separately? Clown face. This one is called Emil Rodriguez. It's almost like they feel an ownership over these dolls, and with females in general. It's giving unhealthy masculinity. I can never say masculinity, but it pisses me off. What a joke to normalize this. Wow. That's where we've come with modern day in society, where we don't like when we normalize inclusivity so that children can see themselves within a doll, within a chronic illness that they did not choose to have but are trying to survive. But this is a joke to normalize their suffering. I mean, it's not good that they're suffering, it's just we need to understand them. Representation has gone a bit too far. Pathetic. Laugh face. Laugh emojis. Oh, these are straight up bullies online. That just made me so sad. What's wrong with people? But like, to look at the kids that are actually enjoying the dolls says everything that we need to know about the benefits. Because the people commenting rude stuff are just dead ugly inside their soul.
Put your hands out.
Why can't I hear this? Wait, is it me or is it the TikTok?
Close your eyes. Put your hands out.
Alright, give me a second. Give me a second. Technical difficulties. I'm keep clicking on the same TikTok too. Okay.
This is me?
I think it's my headphones.
Yeah, this is me.
That's you?
Yeah. It says Barbie.
It says Barbie on it?
Yeah. I just saw it. Whoops it.
Can you see what this
Oh, so cute.
Yeah, the Barbie toy and scratches and a ball in it and a little thing.
Let's look. Do you see anything different about her? What does she have on her arm?
It might be diabetes.
I think this is a type 1 diabetes Barbie. Isn't that so cool?
That's a heart on it.
Look at, I think that's her insulin pump. And that's her CJM on her arm. And she's got brown hair like you. This is her diabetes bag. This is so cool.
There's nothing in it.
It says you can put your glucose meter and blood sugar tester. You're opening it? You're gonna open it right up? Okay, let's open her up.
Uh-oh.
Let's rip the box open. Is that her PDM?
That's so easy. Oh, that's her thing for holding it.
Wow.
See? Just watch. See? I told you.
Okay.
But that's you want to push like this. That's a push like this.
Look at her. Look at her. Do you love it?
Yeah.
She's got diabetes just like you.
I put this
This
on.
is so special. This is so nice that... Oh, yeah, her pump goes in her... Oh, her shoe came on. Her pump goes in her stomach. Like your pod does. You want to put her pump on her? She needs her insulin pump. Look at her little CJM on her arm and her insulin pump on her belly.
It's her shoe up.
Oh, you want her shoes off? Okay.
Yeah. Oh no. Her pie expired.
Her pump expired.
Really
You're gonna change her pod, change her pump. Okay, we can change it. You're gonna put it on her leg.
I like mommy. Mom, what?
Is she swimming?
Yeah.
This is really special. Thank you so much, Mattel, for sending this.
And her
Type
pump.
1 diabetic Barbie, CGM,
And he does
hers,
her pump.
the PDM, and
That's
her
a pump.
pump that Addie's gonna change, and her type 1 diabetes outfit.
That was so cute. These are what dreams are made for. Oh. her saying "this is me" at the beginning makes it all worth it. It's so true though. Like all those mean comments are so evil spirited and just are really taking away the experience of like these children who like just simply want to see themselves in what they play with and the things they love. Like this is their childhood. They're so innocent and pure. Like what harm is there to see yourself within a doll? Like for other people to project evil onto this is just like very, very alarming and makes me feel very hateful towards others that they're so mean. But like when I see these reactions, I'm like, okay, like this is a very positive thing that is happening, and you just cannot let these mean comments and mean-spirited people take over moments like these that are like so wholesome and just remind us of humanity. Like she's so cute. She's so cute. And then there was another reaction as well from this girl as well, around the similar age. So cute. She kind of matches with the outfit.
You got it? Don't open your eyes. Okay. Open your eyes.
I like it.
Do you know what it is?
A Barbie.
But this is a special Barbie. Can you tell why?
No.
What's that on her arm?
Diabetes.
Yeah.
Diabetes.
So what can you see on her?
She has this nipple dancer.
And what else does she have?
And she has a phone.
So that's like a pump. That's a wired pump. So see the little white circle?
Yeah.
That's like your pump. And then look up here, she's got her phone. Look, can you see her graph? Showing her blood sugar levels.
This is what I got.
Do you like it?
Yeah!
She's just like you, isn't she?
Yeah. Please, I play my dolly!
She is very much a British baby. I don't know what that accent was, but that was so cute. She like knew exactly what she was looking at. It was so cute. But yeah, that is something I definitely love to cover and see more representation within that. And I feel like Barbies really are a formative time of like our childhood, especially for females. And as a child, I like really did grow to be like a better designer and like creative because of my time playing with dolls and like shaping fabrics into clothing for them. So that was so wholesome. Definitely will be following up with other things that they're doing, but it doesn't excuse their use of AI or anything like that, obviously. But to move on, I do want to talk about one other news before I jump off, even though there's a bunch of other stuff that I want to cover that I probably will cover on Thursday. Yeah, there's a lot of other stuff, but I have to jump off. So to get into it, I do want to talk about how Gap has curated a vintage collection. They have been doing this on and off for quite a while now, and I think it's them trying to garner more customers, especially Gen Z customers that are very much aligned with like vintage ethos or like just want vintage pieces, especially with their dissatisfaction with fast fashion. So they've released another vintage collection, a 148 piece capsule. And they're working with this one dude called Sean Witherspoon, who seems to be a legit authority in the vintage space. So let's look into this. This article is by Fashion Dive.
Gap releases curated vintage collection. Dive brief. Gap dropped its third Gap vintage collection on Tuesday. The capsule, which was compiled by Gap's vintage curator Sean Witherspoon, features 148 seasonal pieces. It's the largest drop by the vintage curator since his partnership with the company began in 2023. The collection is available exclusively through Gap's e-commerce website, and prices range from $55 to $90 per a company spokesperson. As of press time, a majority of the pieces were sold. Dive Insight. Gap launched the Gap Vintage Project in February and teased that it would release multiple collections. It released the second collection in April but didn't specify a timeline for upcoming drops. The new capsule includes denim, t-shirts, shirts, pants, skirts, and sweatshirts. When Gap Vintage was announced, Witherspoon said the vintage and secondhand market continues to resonate with younger generations, and he was excited to see Gap take curated control of its vintage supply. To that end, Gap Vintage is among the newly announced categories Gap is focusing on as it works to rebuild its image and cultural relevance. Upon his hiring, CEO Richard Dixon was tasked to lead the charge of reinvigorating the company. Under Dixon, Gap has launched Gap Studio, an elevated sub-brand designed by Zach Posen, who was recently hired as Gap Inc.'s creative director and executive vice president. Collaborations have been another key part of the strategy. This year, Gap brands have collaborated with Malbon Golf, Dune and Disney. These efforts have contributed to Gap gaining new customers and maintaining longtime fans. "We are bridging the generation gap," Dixon said in an earnings call in May. "The Gap brand is showing signs of reaching that consumer relevance," he added. Q1 marked the sixth consecutive quarter of positive comps and eighth quarter of market share gains. "We are building a consistent brand narrative that we are applying with relentless repetition," Dixon said.
It's very interesting because I feel like Gap is very much following the rhythm of a lot of other major brands and fast fashion brands, which is embracing sustainability. But theirs is very much just pushing out vintage collections. But again, I think everyone is following trends of like, okay, well, Gen Z and younger audiences want something that's a bit more sustainable or a bit more vintage. And then they come out with their own version of what they think will resonate. And I feel like with Gap, I have a theory that they're going towards vintage collections because they're known to have a lot of cool vintage Gap pieces that really resonate with Gen Zers. For example, I saw this TikTok that I want to show you that shows a Gen Z girl like appreciate her Gap sweater. Says everyone keeps commenting on the TikToks I made. Someone says I'm shipping everything to ThredUp. They did all the work and I make a few bucks and it's all gone. Okay, thanks for the solution. It was 6 years ago. Gosh. Okay. Okay, so let's watch this again. Once a year, I get to pull this vintage Gap sweater out of my wardrobe and put it on. Oh, okay. Put it on for the first time this season. Today is the day. I grew up with vintage Gap because of my parents, and it was like it was such a great, cool experience to like have my parents pass down their like 90s and 2000s clothing to me. And I feel like a lot of Gen Z people are maybe experiencing the same thing where their parents are giving them like vintage Gap and now they want their own vintage clothing as well. And Gap knows that there's this generational like loyalty to Gap and like the vintage finds that other Gen Zers and like other consumers can find in the thrift store, and they want a piece of the pie basically. Like, why have Gen Zers buy vintage Gap at a local thrift store when they can like cater to them and be like, hey, we care about vintage too, and release their own vintage clothing so they don't have to go anywhere else, you know? I think it's a very smart move. I do want to see if they're actually selling vintage Gap or is just vintage in general. I haven't really looked into the details, but if they are selling vintage Gap within their own initiatives, I think that's really smart because there is definitely a demand for that from people in general because it's better quality, it's cute, it's unique pieces. Definitely 90s and 2000-esque clothing. I don't see a link to Gap Vintage. I wonder why. Oh, it just goes back to the links of them. Okay. So, I wonder what brands they're selling, or is it just Gap? Okay, so from beloved Gap essentials like the 90s striped pocket t-shirt, $55, and 90s classic logo hoodies, $85, as well as rare exclusives like the 80s denim jacket hoodie and 90s nylon zip-up windbreaker. This collection showcases a brand's history of quality, craftsmanship, and design. Okay, yeah, so it is definitely their vintage Gap. So they are trying to sell their own product again to Gen Zers, but I wonder where they source it, to be honest. Like, where are they getting their own vintage clothing? Like, are they going to the bins as well, or like, how are they getting stuff into their hands to resell it? So it's a very interesting question how they're doing this, like, logistically, but I mean, the prices are kind of high. Like $55 for a shirt is, I don't know. The last time I checked, Gen Zers didn't have money like that. $85 for a hoodie can actually like make it impossible for like Gen Z to buy it. Like there's literally a gap within like appeal and budget, which is kind of like a corny thing to say. Like there's a gap there because they're Gap, but I don't know. I didn't try to make a joke. It was funny. But yeah, I think there is like a gap here of like interest and budget. So maybe they do have to reduce down like the price to make it more affordable, and then Gen Zers can actually like buy and support this. But that's just like one feedback for them, I guess. But they are known for like making, I guess, better quality fast fashion, because you could say they are fast fashion. They're creating a lot of stuff all the time at a very fast pace. But I think back in the 90s and 2000s, they just had a better like craftsmanship to them, and that's what people are missing and desiring when they're looking for the brand. Because I've had like vintage Gap t-shirts, and I've seen like the better quality. So I personally would go for Gap versus like quote unquote vintage Forever 21 or like vintage whatever. And it's so interesting that they're doing their drops online. So I definitely do think it's like for Gen Zers that are more so on the internet, but I haven't really seen a lot of TikToks on this or a lot of hype on this. I feel like it's for like Gen Zers who go to Gap, which is something I haven't really heard of. But maybe I'm not in Gap in general. Like, do Gen Zers go to Gap? Like the Gap stores? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I do want to go see a Gap store, but I'm not really called to. Like, I feel like I thought it was for millennials. You know, it gives millennial vibes.
Gap just announced they're coming out with a vintage collection called Gap Vintage, featuring 80s and 90s styles. John Witherspoon is their global vintage Gap curator. He's been curating Gap Vintage over the years. This is such a smart idea. There's so much Gap Vintage out there, and they've been doing such a great job with their rebrand. Like, Gen Z loves anything vintage, so this is going to be so good. It's going to be online, but also available in some stores. I just love when companies are making an effort to have fashion be more circular. I just love this. It's so great, and I can't wait to see the launch in February.
So I do think he's going to thrift stores and sourcing it. So he's a sourcer. He's a sourcer here. Okay, I see. So he's literally going to thrift stores, buying vintage Gap, and then just reselling it. So Gap is basically a reseller of their old stuff that they just contracted someone to like source. But he has like some legitimacy, or like he's kind of like cool or whatever. That's so funny. Okay. Wow, everyone is becoming a reseller no matter where you go, huh? To be honest, I don't know whether it's better to like buy from Gap itself or from like Depop, because if this man is going to thrift stores to like give you the piece, why don't you just go to the thrift store itself and support a local thrift store versus giving the money to Gap, who is inherently a fast fashion brand, you know? So very interesting that they decided to go this route and make it seem like it's a genuine intent to like support vintage, where the money just goes back to perpetuating our current fashion industry. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think I probably would not buy from Gap. One, because of the overpriced prices, and two, because I feel like it's unnecessary. Like, we can find really cool stuff at the thrift store. It's just maybe going to take a bit more time to find those really cool pieces, but as long as we take some intention to go look for it, I think we can find awesome pieces. But yeah, vintage can come from all forms and shapes. I don't know why people would want just Gap things in general. Maybe there's some aesthetics there that they can't get anywhere else, but yeah, very interesting move by Gap Inc. And it's a small collection too. It's, what was it, 90 pieces? Please be, I wish it was just 90 pieces. I feel like it's gonna be more. It's gonna be like 500, huh? Wait, let me see the link. I'm getting lost in links here. Lost in the sauce, basically. 148 piece capsule. So I don't think it's gonna generate that much money, but I think it's more so like a PR initiative, and it's just a way for them to promote their vintage items a bit more and try to appeal to Gen Zers. So it's an attempt. I can see it's an attempt, but I think we can just go to the local thrift store, honestly. Yeah. Honestly. But yeah, I'm gonna cut the live stream here. There is a lot more stuff that I had planned to talk about, but I do want to enjoy my summer, and I do take forever yapping. Imagine if I was a full-time live streamer. I could be here for like 8 hours and still not have enough time to talk about everything. I literally spent like 2 hours just talking on 3 things. Imagine like all these other things. I could be here for 10 hours. But I'm not a full-time live streamer. But yeah, there's a lot of other stuff happening. I'm probably going to maybe talk about these things Thursday, and I just live stream images and thumbnails and stuff to reflect that. But maybe to allude to what I'm going to talk about on Thursday. So basically, there's been some money laundering in Louis Vuitton stores, which is crazy. There is the comeback of the Manchester Fashion Week after a 10-year hiatus, which I'm super excited for. There is a lot of articles talking about the paradox of like liking vintage fashion but making hauls from it, which alludes that there is still practices of overconsumption despite it being vintage fashion. And then there is a lot of other very cool fashion shows that I want to look at, like the Iris Van Herpen debut, where they had like a living dress at the Paris Couture Week. And then there is a Teen Vogue article about how knitting clubs have become the least suspecting place for political change by Teen Vogue, which I wanted to get to really bad, but it's fine. And then there's been a bit more progress with the digital product passport, where it's helping double fashion items lifetime. So I was curious about that. I'm sure we'll get to it on Thursday. We will get to it on Thursday. And then there's another brand that's actually working on a collaborative practice to uplift native artistry. We'll get to that as well. And then there is this brand called Loro Piana, who is joining a list of luxury brands tied to worker abuse allegations, which is very concerning. I think it's a consistent pattern that a lot of luxury brands are being very exploitive to their workers and supply chain in general. And then we're going to talk about how the Selfridges, I don't know how to say that word, Selfridges sustainability chief launches a fashion swap app. So very exciting stuff, a lot of exciting news. I'm sure it'll be a long live stream on Thursday to make up for my shorter live stream, but that was just a little preview of what's to come. Hopefully you enjoy the live stream. There is always so much happening in the fashion industry. To keep updated and to stay updated is a never-ending task, but happy to do it and connect with y'all. I'm going to be uploading a YouTube video this Sunday about my time at the Illinois Vintage Fest, which I went to 2 weeks ago. So that vlog is currently being worked on. And then I'm working on a podcast that will be out tomorrow about what's happening in Mexico in terms of the gentrification, because there's a lot of American tourists coming in and staying there even though they're technically not allowed, and making the rent be raised. I cannot talk. I started talking about Mexico and then my English just left me. I was like, let me speak in Spanish, but my brain got confused. But yeah, there's a lot of gentrification in Mexico City specifically. It's causing the rent to be raised. Unfortunately, landlords are getting really greedy, and brands will just want to profit from the influx of money and Americans' purchasing power. But it's not only Americans, it's like tourists who are like want to come in and like have supposedly a more affordable life, get the benefits of the Mexican culture, but also criminalize them. Like they've been saying, oh, don't play your music so loud on the beaches, when they're literally in Mexico, and like people are very like lively and joyful and they love to play their music. And then they've also been like, oh, your food is too spicy, and like your food is not good or whatever. So there's been more like cafes popping up to serve them. There's been a shift in like food consumption, a lot of pushback, when Mexican culture is all about the spicy. Like I'm Mexican American myself, and I'm like, guys, like, where you been? Like, if I knew this, how did you not know this? But I don't know, maybe I had the privilege of being raised here in the United States and having the culture of Mexico being instilled to me through my parents, but I didn't know people could be so uncultured and then have the audacity to go to a country and demand something when they're literally there because they're trying to benefit from them, which is kind of maybe a marker of colonialism and privilege, who knows. But my hair looks crazy. My God. I didn't put any mousse in it. But okay, let's watch a closing fashion show and I'll get out of here. Because I always promise fashion shows and then I never show them. I do want to look at this living dress video and then we'll get out of here and we'll explore what it actually means in Thursday. But I'm live Thursday from 4 to 7 p.m. Central Time, maybe a longer stream. We'll definitely not have anything planned after, so I don't have to jump off. But yeah, 4 to 7 p.m. Central Time. It's only a minute long video, bruh.
Customize and save with Liberty Mutual. So
Not the commercials. Bye. See you later.